Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Yesterday, August 7th, was Purple Heart Day. It's the anniversary of the date that George Washington created the predecessor award to the Purple Heart. So, one of our viewers saw that that was the date and reached out and asked if any Battleship New Jersey sailors ever were awarded the Purple Heart. So, we knew of a couple of sailors who definitely did, and we did some research, and we're up to, would you say about 7, 8? And we're up to about 8 sailors who we know of who received the Purple Heart while they were stationed on this ship. For those of you who might not know, the Purple Heart is an award. It's awarded to American service members from all branches who are wounded in the line of duty, specifically in combat with the enemy. It can be friendly fire. For example, if you get between the lines and somebody from your own side hits you accidentally, that counts. It is not considered friendly fire if you walk into an area where you weren't supposed to and step on a friendly landmine. So there are a lot of rules and regulations about who gets it and who doesn't, but somewhere around 1.5 million American service members have been awarded this medal since it was created. As early as World War I, there were efforts in the works to try and revive General Washington's original medal, but it wasn't until the early 1930s that General Douglas MacArthur was able to spearhead an effort to make it happen. Technically, Purple Hearts are only supposed to be awarded back to the American entry into World War I. However, a handful of surviving service members from as far back as the Civil War applied to receive them in the 1930s when they first came out. Technically, it's supposed to just be for humans. However, there are at least 2 animals who have been awarded the Purple Heart. Sergeant Stubby, the World War I dog, and Staff Sergeant Reckless, the Korean War era racehorse. You do get multiple Purple Hearts if you're wounded multiple times, and at least 10 service members have been wounded 8 or more times, with at least 3 recipients having received 10 Purple Hearts. So, with all that background out of the way, do any of Battleship New Jersey's crew members qualify for that? Like we said earlier, we found about 8 so far. However, we don't have complete deck logs. And the deck logs tend to have really good lists of folks who were wounded in combat and then when awards are given. So the ones that we do know, we know of from the deck log. We now have copies of all of the battleship's deck logs up into early 1984. We put in a Freedom of Information request for the 84 to 91 deck logs for the ship, and the National Archives said that that was going to be so many documents to process that it would take them approximately 70 years, and we could expect that in the 2090s. So sooner or later, we will get the remaining 6 or 8 years of deck logs that we're missing. But in the meantime, we've got all the other ones, and we're still going through and processing them. If you're able to help process these, we are able to take digital volunteers from around the world. Just shoot us an email at education@battleshipnewjersey.org, and we'll get back to you. We'll send you some scanned copies of a couple of pages, and it's essentially you're going through a shared Excel spreadsheet type thing and logging the, not fully transcribing, but at least logging that on this date X happened, this name was mentioned, this many rounds of ammunition were fired, and that gives us a real searchable database that when somebody asks us about people who are wounded on board, for example, we can go back and search which dates we have that information from and come up with a list. But it also means that that list is imperfect because we haven't made it through all of these yet. So the ones that we do know of, we are aware of 3 sailors on board who were wounded during World War II. The ones that we have found are all in October of 1944. So right around the, it was all preparatory to the invasion of the Philippines. And those 3 sailors were all wounded by friendly fire, essentially. Anti-aircraft shells exploding over the battleship, fired by other ships. The shrapnel came down and wounded several of our exposed sailors. We haven't been able to process all of the World War II deck logs yet. There may well be a couple more than those 3, but those are what we know about right now. In the 1950s, we're aware of at least 4 from May of 1951. That would have happened very close to where we're standing right now at turret 1 of the battleship. Those sailors were either manning one of the ship's 40mm guns exposed on deck, or they were heading from their berthing compartment across the main deck to their 40mm gun when a North Korean shell exploded at the face of turret 1, turning into shrapnel and catching 4 of them. One of them, Seaman Robert Osterwind, whose plaque is right here next to me, was killed by that shrapnel. The other 3 recovered from their injuries. All 4 would be eligible for the Purple Heart. Our 8th known recipient was Michael Gorczynski, a chief electronics technician who was in the Marine Corps barracks in Beirut during the bombing in October of '83. He was a member of the ship's crew temporarily at the barracks when he was killed. Do you think that animals serving with the military should be eligible for the Purple Heart? Let us know in the comments section down below. The most amazing thing about Sergeant Reckless was when I read that a horse got the Purple Heart, I was like, okay, did he serve during the Indian Wars or the Civil War? No. This horse served during the Korean War and didn't die until 1968. I had no idea that there were still horses in the military that recently. What about merchant mariners? They're technically not eligible for the Purple Heart. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below for ways you can donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about us and the channel. Thanks for watching.